tended to their ancestors, and fed and nourished their children. They saved money, organized political movements and strikes, and constructed communities of mutual care and succor. They loved. They celebrated and rejoiced and made space for their own liberation from within slavery's trap. I began my trip on the northern Andros coast of the Bahamas in a town where my ancestors participated in the establishment of a free black village in the aftermath of Britain's abolition of maritime trafficking in enslaved people in 1807. Free villages sprang up across many of the British Caribbean islands, especially after Britain's abolition of plantation slavery in 1838, as black people remade their communities in the wake of slavery. At the village of Mastic Point, Alexander Bain, a mixed-race son of a large-scale white slave owner, established one of many Bain towns, in which he apportioned plots of land to the freed people, some of whom were rescued directly from slave ships. The freed people used the land to build small homes, keep subsistence plots, and anchor their fishing boats. In the post-slavery period, the people of Mastic Point were buffeted by the currents of oppression and re-enslavement that continued after and because of emancipation. Illegal trafficking in abducted people from Africa to the Bahamas continued all the way up until the 1880s, more than 70 years after the British abolition of the slave trade. Throughout the late 19th century, the Bahamian coast served as an important port for global human trafficking. Portuguese and Spanish ships, alongside ships from Baltimore and Boston, moored themselves along these shoals as a first point of entry into the slave markets of the Caribbean. From the Bahamian carapace, slaving vessels sailed farther on to the Mississippi Cotton Kingdom, to the sugar island of Cuba, and to the coffee plantations of Brazil. The rumor in my family is that my great-great-great-grandmother, Lorena Woodside, survived the horror of a slave ship chartered from Luanda, Angola, sometime in the 1880s. The story is full of voids, as I don't know where in Western or Central Africa she was kidnapped from, or how she ended up in Mastic Point to make a life with other people descended from African captives. She married a black seaman named Ezekiel. Lorena died at age 19 after giving birth to her second child. I came to Andros because these meager details beckoned me. I consulted birth and marriage registries. I met with distant family members and traveled between villages along the northern coast. And what I encountered was not historical detail, but historical void. None of the elder villagers I met remembered Lorena, because she had passed away a generation before the oldest among them was born. My family's history of slavery traces, in its gaps, the obliteration of kinship ties committed by the weapon of slave ships. Before I departed Andros, a friend took me to one of the island's blue holes. These are deep columns of water that descend into the limestone bedrock. Some even connect through subterranean caves directly out to the ocean. Standing at the edge of this blue hole, I noticed the pool's darkness and stillness, making the surface into a perfect mirror for the surrounding pine trees and the intense blue sky. It looked like a portal, or a channel, into the unknown and the submarine. On the edge of that geological enigma, I reflected on how my encounter with the void of my family's history had some relationship with the experience of peering into this blue hole. When it comes to histories that arise from the trauma of Atlantic slavery, voids and negations indicate both absence and some other, obscure, submerged presence that calls to be known. As I walked around the pool, I felt compelled to tend to something, cross over into something, attune myself to what could not be seen but was present nonetheless. It struck me that this was, in a way, like our relationship to history itself, history filled with assorted unknowns and unclaimed experiences that call out from the voids. The Ghost Line. W. E. Du Bois, the Pan-Africanist philosopher, proposed in 1900 that the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line.